Those 20 Republican no's was Congressman Leonard Lance from the Garden State of New Jersey. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us why you voted no.
I don't think this bill will lower premiums on the American people, and I would prefer to see a bill that has purchase of policies across state lines and tort reform. And I think and hope that the Republicans should work with the Democrats and the Democrats should work with the Republicans. This needs a bipartisan solution, Jake, and I hope the Democrats will come to the table.
There were a lot of Republicans that were concerned about whether or not this bill would be bad for people with pre-existing conditions. Do you think it will?
I certainly favor and have campaigned on making sure that nobody is denied coverage based upon a pre-existing condition, and I'm not sure this bill goes far enough in that direction.
Steve Scalise was on the show earlier basically saying that the law prevents discrimination against people with pre-existing conditions. Of course, it's been pointed out that what it does, though, is it doesn't require that insurance companies have a reasonable cost of insurance for those individuals. Is that your concern?
Insurance has to be accessible and it has to be affordable, and we in New Jersey have long had a provision in our state law regarding no denial of coverage based upon pre-existing conditions and community ratings, and I would have preferred that that stay in the underlying legislation.
14 Republicans who represent districts that Hillary Clinton won last November voted for this bill. Are you worried that this vote will cost them their jobs come November 2018?
I certainly think by that time there will be a host of issues, and I will campaign vigorously for Republican colleagues. I think it's important that we retain control of the House, but I know that I voted today as my constituents would wish.
What changes do you want to make the Senate? Do you want the Senate to make to this, in addition to allowing more purchases across state lines?
I certainly want to make sure that nobody is denied coverage based upon pre-existing condition. And frankly, Jake, I'd like to see tort reform. It's not a silver bullet, but I think it should be part of a larger package. That, of course, would require cooperation from our Democratic colleagues. I think our Democratic colleagues should come to the table, Jake, because after all, the legislation was initially passed when Democrats controlled the Congress.
Congressman, I have to say I was pretty surprised that Republicans brought this forward for a vote before the Congressional Budget Office had a chance to analyze it and predict what this would mean in terms of individual insurance. Were you surprised?
I would have preferred a CBO score first. I think that's always preferable. That doesn't mean you cannot begin the legislative process before that score occurs, but by the time legislation reaches the floor of one of the houses, I would much prefer a CBO score.
Do you think a CBO score, if the CBO had been allowed to analyze the bill and say 20 million or whatever the number is, individuals, fewer individuals will have insurance, or whatever the positive changes would have been, would that have changed your vote, or at least given you a moment for pause?
I would obviously have analyzed any score by the CBO, and I certainly analyzed the original score based upon a prior iteration of the bill. I think it's important that we have a CBO score on all major issues of this kind.
Congressman Leonard Lance from the great state of New Jersey, thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it.